The school bus no longer enters Cypress Crown Drive. There is no flood, police barricade, or fallen tree blocking the road. There is a bird standing in the turnaround. It is nearly as tall as the stop sign. Black feathers hang from its body like wet hair. Its neck is blue, its wattles red, and a hard casque rises from its skull. When the driver taps the horn, the bird does not flee. It steps toward the bus and lowers its head. Behind it, two striped chicks emerge from the landscaping. The driver closes the door and reverses. By the time Wildlife Officer Daniel Cruz arrives, children are filming through the bus windows. Parents are gathering at the entrance, and someone has placed a bowl of mangoes beside the sidewalk. That bowl is more dangerous than the bird. Southern cassowaries have entered the suburbs of Florida. They did not migrate from Australia or walk out of the Everglades. Months earlier, a hurricane tore through a private collection east of Naples. The owner reported damaged fencing and several missing exotic birds. Search teams recovered most of them. 2 females and 3 males vanished into dense vegetation connected to canals, preserves, golf courses, and residential developments. Officials expected animals that large to be found quickly. Instead, residents began seeing blue heads at the edge of security footage. Fruit disappeared from backyard trees. Wide, 3-toed tracks crossed muddy service roads and stopped at the water. Then, the photographs ended. The birds had not disappeared. They had learned when people were watching. Cassowaries are often called modern dinosaurs, but that phrase is an image, not a scientific time machine. They are living birds with a long evolutionary history, not unchanged survivors walking directly out of the Cretaceous. Their resemblance to something prehistoric comes from their size, powerful legs, small wings, coarse plumage, casque, and the long inner claw carried on each foot. That claw can inflict severe injury. A defensive kick can puncture tissue, break bone, or damage a blood vessel. Fatal attacks have occurred, including a captive incident in Florida in 2019. But the reputation of the world's most dangerous bird hides essential context. Cassowaries are generally shy. They do not patrol rainforests searching for humans to disembowel. The strongest predictor of conflict is often us. Studies of cassowary incidents in Queensland found that many attacks involved birds previously fed by people. Food changes distance. A wary animal learns to approach homes, vehicles, and hands. If the expected meal does not appear, its size and impatience become a public safety problem. On Cypress Crown Drive, residents have been feeding the female for weeks. At first, they tossed fallen fruit from patios and watched her eat. Then they began placing mangoes closer to phones for better video. The bird learned that humans standing near doors predict food. When she appeared with chicks, attention multiplied. A neighborhood curiosity became a roadside attraction. Now she approaches the school bus because people have trained her to approach vehicles. Daniel orders the fruit removed and asks everyone to move indoors. The female does not charge. She walks beside the bus, looking from the doors to the crowd. One parent raises a grocery bag. The cassowary changes direction immediately. That movement tells Daniel what he needs to know. The bird is not claiming the cul-de-sac as a kingdom. It is searching for a reward. This distinction matters because territoriality in cassowaries is more complicated than the original nightmare suggests. They are mostly solitary, and their home ranges can overlap. Aggression may increase around food, mating, self-defense, or chicks, but every backyard is not automatically interpreted as an enemy nation. A bird that has room to leave will often choose distance. Florida suburbs remove that distance. Canals end at fences. Preserve strips narrow between houses. Glass pool enclosures, traffic, dogs, golfers, delivery workers, and residents surround every patch of cover. An animal trying to avoid one person may emerge in front of another. A cassowary does not need to be pathologically aggressive to create repeated emergencies. It only needs to be large, fast, defensive, and trapped inside a landscape designed without it. Its speed is real. Powerful legs can drive the bird rapidly through dense vegetation, and it can jump and swim. But numbers repeated online, 30 miles per hour, 5-foot leaps, 5-inch claws, do not mean every individual performs at a fixed maximum during every confrontation. The important fact for a resident is simpler. You cannot count on outrunning one at close range. Daniel establishes a safety perimeter and waits for a specialized capture team. The plan is to guide the female and chicks toward a screened transport lane using solid visual barriers. Chasing would increase stress. Cornering the bird could provoke kicking. A tranquilizer dart might work, but sedation is not instantaneous, and a panicked animal can run into traffic or water before collapsing. The crowd becomes the greatest obstacle. People leave their homes to watch. A drone descends over the chicks. The female raises her body and produces a deep, booming call. Residents feel the lowest notes more than they hear them. Cassowaries do make remarkably low-frequency vocalizations, with reported fundamentals near the lower edge of human hearing. Those calls may travel through dense forest. They do not bypass the ear to trigger a supernatural sense of terror, nor do they shake windows across a neighborhood. On a quiet street, however, the sound is unfamiliar enough to stop conversation. The drone drops lower. The female runs toward it as the operator pulls back. Her chicks scatter. One crosses beneath a hedge into another yard, and the mother follows. The controlled capture dissolves into a search through 6 properties. No one is injured, but the incident proves how quickly spectators can manufacture danger. The family escapes into a golf course preserve before the transport team arrives. For wildlife agencies, the problem now has 2 scales. The first is recovering 5 escaped adults. The second is determining whether they have reproduced outside captivity. The striped chicks answer that question, but not the harder one. Can a population persist? South Florida offers important advantages. The climate is warm and humid. Tropical and ornamental fruit is abundant. Forest fragments, mangroves, swamp edges, and thick landscaping provide cover. Cassowaries eat mostly fallen fruit and can swallow large fruits whole, later dispersing seeds across long distances. That ecological service is valuable in their native rainforest. In Florida, it could have a different result. The birds may carry seeds from ornamental yards into natural areas. Some seeds belong to native plants. Others belong to invasive fruiting species that land managers are trying to control. A cassowary does not distinguish between them. By connecting suburbs with preserves through its digestive tract, it could become a powerful disperser of whichever plants feed it most reliably. The invasion is not led by an apex predator. It is led by a gardener with legs. This mechanism is slower than attacks and more consequential over time. A new thicket appears beside a canal. Birds and mammals use it. Fire behavior changes. Native seedlings lose light. Each patch seems unrelated until researchers map cassowary droppings and find the same seeds moving along the bird's roots. Still, establishment is far from guaranteed. Suburbs contain food, but they also contain roads. Vehicle strikes are a major threat to cassowaries in Australia, and Florida's traffic would be unforgiving. Domestic dogs can harass adults and kill young birds. Bobcats and coyotes may take chicks. Alligators could ambush birds crossing water. Panthers, disease, hurricanes, cold snaps, and fragmented habitat would impose additional pressure. Adults are formidable, not immune. Reproduction creates another bottleneck. Cassowaries do not form stable breeding pairs that defend chicks together. A female may mate and leave eggs with a male. The male incubates the clutch and raises the young alone for many months. The female seen at Cypress Crown Drive therefore challenges the team's first assumption. If the adult with the chicks is actually a male, as biological sampling later confirms, that at least one female remains elsewhere, potentially laying another clutch with another male. The number of family groups may be larger than the number of sightings. Daniel's team reviews the original escape report. The private owner identified birds by enclosure rather than genetic records, and several leg bands were missing after the storm. No one can say which female bred with which male, or whether eggs were already present when the fencing failed. The operation changes from recovery to population assessment. Camera traps are placed along canals and preserved corridors. Acoustic recorders listen for booming calls near dawn and dusk. Teams collect droppings for DNA. Residents receive instructions. Do not feed. Do not approach. Secure pets. Give the bird an escape route and report sightings without gathering a crowd. Most neighborhoods cooperate. One does not. A gated development begins advertising unofficial dinosaur walks. Residents guide visitors to a female that appears near a fruiting fig tree each afternoon. The bird becomes conditioned to golf carts. When a visitor holds out a papaya and then pulls it back for a photograph, the cassowary lunges for the food. The visitor trips. Daniel reaches the scene after the bird has left. The victim has a deep laceration across the thigh and a broken wrist from the fall. The wound is serious but survivable. Online, the clip is edited to begin at the charge, removing the feeding that caused the encounter. The headline calls it an unprovoked dinosaur attack. Fear replaces fascination overnight. Homeowners demand lethal removal. Others form groups to prevent authorities from capturing the birds. False sightings overwhelm dispatch. Wild turkeys, sandhill cranes, and emus from nearby farms are reported as juvenile cassowaries. Someone shoots into vegetation beside a bike path and nearly hits a neighbor. The birds have become a symbol before biologists have counted them. Claims that international conservation law makes removal impossible are wrong. Protection in a species' native range does not force Florida to tolerate a dangerous introduced population. State and federal rules, animal welfare requirements, ownership questions, and permit conditions would shape the response. But authorities could capture and, if necessary, lethally remove animals to protect people and ecosystems. The ethical conflict would remain real. Southern cassowaries face serious conservation challenges in parts of Australia. Healthy captive origin birds may have value to accredited breeding programs. Killing them because humans imported, confined, fed, and released them would feel like punishment directed at the wrong species. Daniel favors live capture while the population is small. The strategy targets food-conditioned birds first. Feeding sites are removed. Fruit is collected from the ground in high-conflict yards. Temporary visual fencing narrows travel routes. Remote gates close only after an adult enters a large corral voluntarily. Males with chicks require slower operations, so families are not separated. The first female is captured without injury. The second learns from the trap. She stops entering open corrals and approaches only after crews leave. Cassowaries are intelligent enough to remember locations and routines, but there is no need to turn that intelligence into military strategy. Simple caution is enough to defeat a predictable schedule. Meanwhile, the male from Cypress Crown Drive moves his chicks toward a wetland corridor. Daniel follows the family through camera detections rather than direct pursuit. The chicks grow quickly. Their striped plumage darkens. Each week, they become harder to distinguish from independent young birds. Then, a hurricane warning is issued. The approaching storm threatens fences, capture equipment, shelters, and every known travel corridor. It could kill exposed chicks, or scatter the remaining birds across a far larger landscape. Agencies have 48 hours to choose between a rushed capture and losing the map. Daniel sets the final corral beside a grove the male visits after heavy rain. There is no pile of fruit and no crowd. Existing fallen fruit is left inside, and solid barriers hide the gate mechanism. The family enters at first light. Before the gate closes, a dog slips its leash outside the perimeter and charges the fence. The male turns toward the sound. He could flee through the opening. Instead, he places himself between the dog and the chicks, body raised, inner claws forward. Daniel reaches the dog's leash and pulls it back. The gate closes behind the cassowaries. The capture succeeds because the bird behaves exactly as a parent should. By the time the storm arrives, 4 adults and 1 family group are secure. 1 female remains unaccounted for. Months pass without a confirmed sighting. Officials declare active removal successful but continue monitoring. Property values do not collapse. Walls do not rise around entire neighborhoods. Florida does not gain a new apex predator. The ecological question remains open. During a plant survey inside a preserve, researchers find cassowary droppings containing seeds from an ornamental fruiting tree miles away. Nearby stands a seedling too young to predate the hurricane. The missing female passed through recently. She may be alone. She may have found the last unaccounted male before he was captured. Somewhere beyond the camera grid, a male could be sitting silently on a clutch while officials search for a 6-foot bird. The invasion was never about cassowaries conquering suburban territory. It was about humans providing food, corridors, spectacle, and just enough delay for a shy animal to become difficult to remove. If cassowaries began breeding in South Florida, should every bird be captured to protect the ecosystem? Or should a monitored population be allowed to remain because the animals themselves were victims of human negligence? Tell us which responsibility comes first in the comments. Subscribe to What If Animals and watch the next scenario, because the most dangerous wild animal in a neighborhood may be the one people teach to stop being wild.